You're now listening to the You Run podcast.
True crime. This podcast is unique. Heather, tell them why.
You choose the cases. You share your opinion. And I hit you with mine.
He got an easier death than he deserved.
Casey was the first Illinois prisoner executed against his will.
An eyewitness later described Bundy's last moments of life.
He made reference to his loved ones and to his family when he was saying his last words.
A serial killer comes about by circumstances and
This is the You Run podcast. This is the only true crime podcast where we put you in control. You become part of our team as me and Heather take you through the cases that you have chosen. This is not our show. This is your true crime.
That bitch is cray-cray. She's real crazy.
Hello, welcome to the You Run podcast. My name is Scott, and with me as always is our splash of wine to our true crime.
It's Heather. I almost forgot. Why am I always forgetting my name? I feel like, you know what it is. Everybody knows I'm pregnant, so there's no wine right now, but my brain cells have been wined out. They're gone.
Yeah, but you can't say there's no wine now because that's what all of our merchandise says. True crime with a splash of wine.
I just mean I can't drink it right now because then my baby will come out with like 4 arms or something. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Okay,
I'm gonna drink it after the baby. Don't worry.
So after our last episode, so we done Ed Gein, and then we done the Ed Gein extended cut. We received a call into the show. And as soon as we got it, I sent it to Heather because it absolutely blew my mind. I can't play all of it for you because the person on the call gives away some personal details. But I'm going to play some of it now because I think you as the listeners need to know where that episode reached. So here's the message that we got.
Hello, Scott. You and Heather did a really cool show just recently. And you mentioned my film, Ed Gein the Musical, and I'd love to be on your show to talk about it. I'm the creator, executive producer, writer, and I also star as Ed Gein in the film. SRS Cinema is reissuing it with a big splash this late summer, fall. But yeah, if you want to, my email is...
And that's where we'll stop it because then he goes into giving the emails and the other bits.
Yes.
Your singing must have just been an awakening for him.
It's an awakening for most people. It's how I've gotten all my husbands, maybe. It's beautiful. I think he did enjoy it, though. I'm just saying, I'm pretty clever. He liked that.
Yeah, I think he did. Can we have a rendition of it again to remind everyone?
You want me to do it again?
Yeah.
Wait, I have to remember what I said because I already forgot what I was saying.
It was to Frozen. I remember that.
Yeah. Well, did I do that? Yeah, because I said, do you want to build a skin suit? Do you want a nipple belt? That's what I said. Yay. Clap, clap for Heather.
I am going to make contact. We are at some point in the future going to do an extra episode of Extended Cut. And we're going to talk about Ed Gein again and find out the inspiration for the musical and find out all about the musical. Maybe actually play some real songs from the musical as well, not just mine and Heather's made up ones.
If they want to do a part 2, just let me know.
You could get cast, Heather. That would be amazing.
That would be amazing because I've never been in anything like a movie, but that would be awesome. I'm going to be like, please put me in your movie, but wait till after I have the baby because I can't lug this around.
Yeah.
No.
We've been doing the show for a little while now, and I think that message just kind of epitomizes how stunned I am every single week with the amount of people that listen to this show. The thousands, literally thousands of you who listen every month now. It terrifies me when I look at the numbers that this many people listen to me and Heather. Thank you so much for continuing to listen every single month. It's amazing. And part of that is down to the fact that Heather's amazing.
sometimes I'm mean, like,
Yeah, again,
earlier. amazingly mean. No, I just can't help it, you guys. It's like, for any of you ladies out there that have been pregnant, Scott, because wifey's been pregnant.
Yeah.
This shit ain't fun. It ain't fucking fun when you over 35.
No, just for everyone's knowledge as well, it's not fun for us guys either, because we have to tolerate how not fun it is for you. It's not all one-sided. You do all the carrying and all the heavy lifting, and we take all the shit that comes with it.
That's true. I got real upset not long ago over something about a condiment not being in my food. I think I forgot like hot mustard or honey mustard, and I about strangled my husband. So, yeah.
Another reason this show is so good, we do get so many people listening, is because we have the best guests.
Yes.
And to keep that tradition today, we have got a guest with us. We have got one half of Horror Bestie Breakdown. We've got a true crime obsessive. We've got a law enforcement dispatcher and a writer and editor. Tasha, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I was super excited when you guys asked me, because it's been so much fun listening to these episodes. Between horror and true crime, like it's a one-stop shop now.
It's got a little bit like that. It's become almost like a full-time job for me now. It started as a hobby.
Can imagine why.
It has.
You are a dispatcher.
I am.
Is that must be a crazy job at times?
So it's not as crazy as it could be if we were 911. Thankfully, we're kind of considered like a secondary agency, but we still, every day, like, you think that you know how ridiculous people are, and then you pick up the phone and they just shock you with how horrible they are again. So, like, one of my favorites that I always tell people is we actually had somebody who called in. They had run out of gas on the interstate, and they called in needing somebody to come get them gas. So we got out there, and it turns out he had stolen this vehicle, drove it until he ran out of gas, and then called the police for help. So
stupid.
Right? Like, I wish it was always that easy, but there's hard days and there's really entertaining days. So
yeah.
That's spectacular. How stupid could you be to steal a car and then ring the police for gas?
Yeah. And it's one of those things, like, if you tried to make up that story, everybody'd be like, that's ridiculous. Nobody would be that dumb. It's not a thing.
No, I 100% am like, pretty much everyone in my mind is that stupid. Like, ask Scott, he knows. I'm like, you're stupid. I don't know what's wrong with you, but like, that's why I'm like, this world is full of trash, garbage people. You know, when you find your good people, you got to keep them close, because that's all you're getting is your little circle.
Yeah, and that's why I'm a big campaigner for taking the warning labels off of everything and just let natural selection sort it out.
There are warning labels on shit, and kids were still eating Tide Pods. That didn't fucking matter. You can't help them. You can't help them.
This case today is, we gave you a choice of celebrity cases, and I picked a wide range, and Heather helped put the ones in the poll. So we had O.J. Simpson, we had Oscar Pistorius, we had Snoop Dogg, all these really happy, cheery, kind of fun cases. And we even had Amber Heard, because she's a celebrity criminal as well. And I thought that would have been a fun episode. They all had huge star power. And there was one that literally breezed through every single round. 85, 90% of the votes, every single round. And that was Chris Benoit. Now, I have received more messages, more DMs about this case before we've recorded than I've ever received before across every platform. And I've received everything from, I think it's great you're doing this case, to death threats about doing this case.
God.
Do you want me to go ahead and finish, Scott? Because I'm trying to be right. Anyway, go ahead.
So I've received a couple of threats saying that I must handle this case delicately or else. I had one that said, if you even touch on the conspiracy theories, I will find you and kill you. Now, before I go any further, I'm just going to say, We've got this episode, and then we've got extended cuts. This episode is going to focus on the case and the facts as we know it. Extended cut is entirely conspiracy theories dedicated to the person who sent me that DM. So I hope you are listening, and I am going to cover it because I don't give a shit if you're going to come find me, because I'm really not bothered. I'm not scared. You be as scary as you want to be by a message. It's fine.
It's so ridiculous. I have to say this before we move on. People that I like, what is wrong with you in your fucking brain to send a message like that to somebody over something? Did you know Chris Benoit? Did you know him? I don't think you did. So shut up. I'm telling y'all, this is going to be feisty as fuck episode because I'm going to fight. I don't care if I'm pregnant. I don't care.
It always amazes me, like, how much sports incite people to violence. Like,
I know. That's why I don't watch it. I don't get into it, you know? So it's like, not for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to kick this off before we even get into it and say that I watched wrestling when I was a kid. My kids still watch wrestling today, and I dip in and out. So I have a little bit of knowledge, but I would no way say that I am a huge wrestling fan. I know who Chris Benoit was, but again, like every other case, I've had to go and find out who this is and what he done. So this month, our case is on former professional wrestler and family annihilator, Chris Benoit.
My name is Dennis Fig. I run the security for World Wrestling, and one of our wrestlers that lives down there is missing. We need a welfare check done.
The wrestling world in shock today. Former champion Chris Benoit found dead in his Atlanta home along with his wife and young son.
Benoit had an intense on-stage persona. He was nicknamed the Rabid Wolverine.
He carried his son on a pedestal. He loved that boy. You can watch any pay-per-view event. Anytime he won a match, he had his son in the ring with him.
This is the love that Chris and Nancy always had.
We were family. We went and had fun.
He was the politest person I've ever met. I mean, it was always yes ma'am, no ma'am. I mean, he wasn't rude to anybody. He was always talking about his kids and when they were coming to visit and what they were going to do.
You ever seem like he had a temper?
No, never.
Police now treating the discovery as a double murder-suicide.
And they also found Bibles placed beside the bodies of his wife and his 7-year-old son. They were apparently killed in separate rooms. There were prescription steroids also found in the home. The toxicology results, they're not going to be back for a few weeks, so we don't actually know the connection there yet, but a lot of people looking at those steroids.
Christopher Michael Benoit was a professional wrestler with a career spanning 22 years, holding major titles in Stampede Wrestling, New Japan, WCW, ECW, and eventually reaching the peak of his wrestling career in WWE, becoming a 3-time tag team champion, 4-time intercontinental champion, 3-time United States champion, and winning the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, wrestling is incredibly central to this case, and in my opinion, has a direct link to the tragedy that happened. But before we can look at anything he done in wrestling, we need to understand the man that he was and the life that he led outside of the ring. So I'm going to focus there first. We're going to start with his first marriage. So Chris Benoit was born on, well, a little bit of his history and his first marriage. He was born in 1967 in Canada and spent most of his childhood in Alberta. He was an obsessive child, in love with the idea of becoming a wrestler. And he started preparing to become a wrestler at the age of 12, starting bodybuilding. And basically, that's all he ever wanted to do, was get in the ring. And he done it. In the early 1980s, he started his wrestling career as a professional, where he met his first wife, Martina. Details of how they met are really scarce because they met when Chris was on the road. It's believed that they met when he was getting very popular in Stampede Wrestling. They married in 1980 and had 2 children, David and Megan. I'm going to come back to David when we get to Extended Cut because I've got a lot to say about David, especially now with what he's currently doing.
Yeah, so do I.
They divorced in 1996, and it's noted that Chris had a great relationship with his kids after that. So it was a marriage that went wrong, and after that, everything was pretty much okay. He saw his kids a lot. He was an attentive father, and up until this point, he's a really nice guy.
I mean, as we know, he was a really, really nice guy, but let's see, he'd already been married, so he would have been like in his 20s, I think, at this point. But I think there was already some stuff going on prior to like the steroid use and some drug usage, because if you didn't see how jacked he was, doesn't typically happen from just drinking your protein shakes and lifting your weights. So I think it started early is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like the drug stuff is like slowly starting to get in there.
I think from what I understand of wrestling, even today, you've only got to switch on the WWE, AEW, or any of the other major promotions. Yeah. They're all jacked on steroids.
Absolutely.
You don't, even people like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, you do not get that size by eating clean and lifting weights.
I mean, like, I firmly believe that as well. Like, I just can't believe somebody can humanly get that large. I'm not saying that if you just don't, you work out constantly, but I think you got to have a little bump.
And to have started at 12, like, who knows how early he really started getting into some of that stuff.
Well, that's the thing, because that sort of stuff is available in gyms, any gym, even the gym that I was a member of. I'm not now, I'm getting a bit doughy. But when I was a member of gym, there were people in there who you could get steroids from quite easily. It's not a difficult thing to obtain. While Chris was going through his divorce from his first wife, he was working for WCW, and he was feuding with another wrestler and writer called Kevin Sullivan. At the time, Kevin Sullivan was writing a script where Chris Benoit had an affair with Sullivan's wife. As quite often, fiction is imitated in fact and in life, and that on-screen affair became a real affair, which led Nancy to divorce Kevin in 1996 and marry Chris Benoit in the year 2000 after a 3-year engagement. Before I say anything else, that is fucked up.
I mean, it is very fucked up, but I mean, like in that world of celebrity status, small celebrity status, I would say at that point, right? Because he's not super big at that time, but I mean, that's just going to happen. Like, think about Hollywood. Let's take it out of the wrestling aspect for just a second. Just think about like celebrities in general. They fuck everybody. They fuck their mama's cousins. They don't care. Like, if you notice, like, they flip-flop with everybody, right? Everybody dates everybody. Brad Pitt cheated on Jennifer Aniston. I ain't never going to forget that. With that goblin. I said what I said. She ain't cute. Goblin.
Well, especially like when they're in these roles where they have to pretend like there's this romantic involvement and everything. Like they immerse themselves so much in it. Like, because they said, they had Chris and Nancy going on dates and, all kinds of things, like to show that they were involved. So, I mean, at some point, like, it's going to happen, man.
Yeah. I think so, too. I mean, even if the person is not set to cheat or I think Hollywood in real life, like, they are just people, but, like, we're, like, regular, like, we live in the real world. So, for them, it's like, I don't know, like a moral thing for them. They have no morals, actually. It's just like, oh, well, we were with somebody, but now we're like, make up your fucking mind.
Yeah, I thought it was strange. I mean, they had their first and only son, Daniel, was born in November, the year they got married. They had a relatively okay relationship up until 2003. And in 2003, Nancy filed for divorce and issued a restraining order against Chris. Both of these were dropped later that year as they made steps to rebuild their relationship. And after that, everything seemed okay, but a lot of people said that restraining order didn't sit well with Chris. He wasn't happy that she went that far because he didn't think it was required and he couldn't see his son. And was a constant bone of contention in their relationship moving forward. As it would be. And if your wife issued you with the restraining order and then everything was okay afterwards, that's your go-to in every argument, surely.
So, how many people with restraining orders against them feel like it's justified? Like 90% of the people out there are going to be like, oh, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
exactly. But the person that wanted the restraining order, it probably is that bad for them. And being someone that has been in a toxic, abusive relationship before, I get how it's easy just to go right back into that because there's a lot of manipulation that goes on in that. And so we don't know what was said by Chris to Nancy. Why was it dropped? And it was just like, okay, everything's fine. No big deal. Like, that's pretty severe.
Yeah, it was. And at the time, so when this was all going on, Chris was well liked within the WWE. He had made a huge name for himself. He was now a top flight star. And for anyone who didn't watch wrestling at this time, he was the equivalent level star to someone like John Cena or Roman Reigns or The Rock. He was the peak of the wrestling business. He was a world champion, top of the tree. And he was very close friends with another top star, Eddie Guerrero, Eddie's nephew, Chavo, Dean Malenko, and Chris Jericho, who's still a huge star. He was well thought of within the company. He was held in high regard for his dedication, commitment, and his punctuality. Eddie was often likened as his brother because they were that close. They traveled together. They shared rooms together. They were inseparable. Things went very wrong for Chris in 2005 when Eddie Guerrero passed. So Eddie Guerrero had a heart failure caused by a pre-existing medical condition and copious amounts of drugs that he had taken to cause that pre-existing condition. I'm gonna say that because it's glossed over on everything.
The truth. It's the truth. I mean, if you yourself, if you're never a drug user and then you're like getting all roided out or cocaine, whatever, okay, any amount of drugs, there is a very high probability that you are going to have a fucking health issue down the road, even after you quit. That is the result of doing drugs. All right, children, PSA, hugs, not drugs.
No.
Don't do
can't
it.
fix that. A lot of that damage once it's done. You're done.
Exactly.
No, you can't. And it's well documented that Eddie had lots and lots of demons that he battled through. And he did get clean, but that pre-existing condition was caused because of all of that things that he'd done to himself up until that point.
Exactly.
It took a massive toll on Chris. He lost his best friend, his traveling buddy, and his brother, effectively. Chris Jericho, who was very close to both of them, commented that Chris become like a hermit, refused to take time off from wrestling. He would not stop. He wouldn't go away and grieve. And Chris Jericho stated that every arena, every city, every match he competed in was like this constant reminder of Eddie, to the point that Chris even used some of Eddie's moves and the fans would chant Eddie. That's not a way to deal with it.
It seemed more... It's like, I know that was his best friend. I think they were best friends for like 8 to 10 years. They had been so close, but it almost felt like, not like a romance or anything, but there was a closeness that is harder to define than just a best friend because of the impact that it had on Chris and the fact that everyone noticed, like, he's not okay. Warning sign number 1, he's not okay.
Yeah, there's a really impactful, if anyone wants to go and Google it, go and Google Chris Benoit winning the World Heavyweight title. So when Chris won the World Heavyweight title, Eddie come out from the back and into the ring and lifted his hand, and both of them were in floods of tears and hugging. That's how close they were.
I saw it. It's sad. I mean, it's like really endearing and nice, and it was great that they had such close friendship, but there was something unhealthy about it in that aspect after the fact. Like with Chris, he could not cope. He was not coping at all.
No.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like in the dark side of the ring, when Eddie's wife was talking about how often she would find him crying. Like she had finally started to process stuff, and he was still just a disaster.
Yep.
Yeah, he was in a really bad way, and I think it's because he didn't deal with it. And his wife had huge concerns as well. She quite vocally told the WWE officials and Chris himself that if he continued to wrestle, he was going to continue to deteriorate, not just physically, but mentally. And sadly, that's exactly what happened.
Foreshadowing for sure.
Yeah. Now, I haven't mentioned any of the horrifying events of 2007 yet, but I will. Before I do, there's one more thing I want to touch on, and that is what I deem as the biggest contributing factor to what happened, and that's the wrestling style that Chris Benoit developed and adopted. Most wrestlers' goal in the ring is to put on a show for the crowd, not injure their opponent or themselves. Chris followed this almost to the letter. He never injured another superstar intentionally. He put on some of the best shows in wrestling history, and there are arguments that some of his matches could be the greatest wrestling match of all time.
Yeah.
But he had zero regard for his own safety. Zero.
That's very true. Very true.
He adopted several moves that are incredibly dangerous. One of which is it's called a suicide dive, believe it or not. So they run against the ropes. When they come back the other way, they dive in between the two ropes and out of the ring to get the other person. Now, normally when this is done, they come out hands first and they're caught by the other wrestler and then they both collapse on the floor. When Chris done this, he would come out kind of at a dodgy angle. And I've seen footage where he comes out of the ring, completely misses the person and hits the announce desk head first and then continues to wrestle.
I don't see how that, I mean, other than the fact that he had to be on some sort of enhancement, you know, like a drug or something, right? There is no way a normal person is going to bash their brains in on something, get up and be like, okay, I'm good. Let me do it again. Because that is, I watched some of the clips and I was like, this is why I never fucking watch wrestling. Like, this is ridiculous. Sorry, wrestling fans, but I'm not a fan. It looks horrible. Like, I don't see the enjoyment.
Yeah, the thing is, there's lots of dangerous things that can be done in safe ways. So when they jump on each other from the top rope, they cushion the fall using their arms. They take bumps on their body, but they're acceptable. They're safe bumps. But Chris Benoit adopted another move, which is the diving headbutt, where he would jump from the top rope with his hands by his side and land with his head touching their chest. One, that's going to hurt your head, and two, it's going to hurt your neck. But wow, if you watch the footage, he never puts his. There are many wrestlers who use that move, and they all come down hands first to slow their fall. Then the head touches. Chris has got his hands by his ass. It's like hands are flailing behind him.
I know. It's like I saw that. It was like he was just like flailing, like, okay, head first. It was almost like as if he didn't have any arms and you were just running really fast and use your head for impact. Like, I'm like, this is not okay. Y'all stop. No. Look, my brother was into wrestling. I did not like it.
I feel like it's like a basic human instinct. Like if you feel like your head is going to come into contact with something, you put your hands up. So have to like
protect it.
He just like gave no shit at all. He did not care.
No, and I think a lot of that was driven by his desire to put on a good show.
I do too. I get that, to be extreme, to be the best. But, you know, from what I understand with wrestling is a lot of it, it's practiced in a showmanship way. Like a lot of it, it's fake, right? Yeah. Like fake in the sense of it looks like they hurt themselves, but really they're doing it in a way that they won't hurt themselves. But Chris Benoit was no. Yeah,
it's entertainment. I mean, they all injure themselves. They all take massive bumps. They all tear quads or rip out their shoulder or break their neck, which is another common injury. It happens. It's a really dangerous thing to do, but it is on the forefront. It's all a show.
Yeah,
it's entertainment. Well, we're at the point now that I don't really want to talk about, but we're going to talk about.
We got to do it. This is what we do.
I've broken this down into days because the timeline is no one knows exactly what happened over that weekend. So I'm working on what we do know on each day to give us a picture, and then we'll kind of work from there. So the Saturday night, Chris was due to work a house show, which is a non-televised event for WWE. He was due to be traveling to the event with his friend and nephew of Eddie Guerrero, Chavo. Chavo received a call from Chris saying that Nancy and Daniel were sick with food poisoning and he wouldn't make the show. But he promised he'd be at the pay-per-view the following night where he was due to win the ECW world title. He also called WWE Talent Relations and said that Nancy and Daniel were sick and that he couldn't make it, but he was going to catch a later flight. He ended the call by telling Chavo that he loved it, which Chavo said it's not out of character. Chris had said it many times before, but something just didn't feel right. To the point that he asked Chris, what's wrong? And he went, "Oh, no, I'm just tired, man." And it was left at that. That was Saturday. Sunday morning, around 5:30 in the morning, Chavo received a text from Chris saying the dogs are in the enclosed pool area in the back and the back door is open. Shortly after this, Chavo received an identical text from Nancy's phone. He then got another text giving Chris's home address. Chavo was confused because he'd been to Chris's house the previous weekend. They'd had a family barbecue, so he knew where he lived. He's known this guy for 20 years. It's not a case of, I need your address. Yeah. Again, Chavo didn't do anything because he was due to collect Chris from the airport in 3 hours. So it's kind of like, I'll deal with this when I see him. Something's not right, but I'll speak to him face to face. Chris never showed up at the airport, and the main event was booked. He was due to become a champion, and they replaced him on the show. This led to WWE going to Chavo and go, "What the fuck's going on? Have you heard from Chris?" Chavo showed them the text, and WWE asked for a wellness check by local law enforcement to go and check Chris at his home. That was that day. Monday. This is hard. I kind of try to drag the information till I get to. Yeah. I don't want to talk about Monday and Tuesday. Monday and Tuesday suck. Monday, when the police arrived at the house, they were concerned about the 2 large German shepherds that were Chris's dogs. So they asked the neighbour if they knew the dogs, and the neighbour's like, "Oh yeah, I look after their dogs all the time when they're away travelling. I'll take them in the house for you." It was the neighbour who then come out of the house screaming that Daniel was dead. Yeah. By this time, no real news had come out about what had happened, but news had got back to the WWE that Chris, Daniel, and Nancy had died. WWE made a very interesting decision with no information. They organised a meeting of all the wrestlers in the ring where they told them what had happened. They then told them that the scheduled show that night, Monday Night Raw, which was a televised event, was cancelled. And instead they were going to air a 3-hour tribute to Chris Benoit and his achievements in the ring.
I don't agree with the way that they handled this because they had no details on what happened.
No, I think it speaks to his character at work that at no point did anyone think this was anything sinister. Their first reaction was, "This is horrible. Oh my God, I can't believe this. Let's give this great man a tribute."
Yeah, and I get that. I could understand that for sure because he was so well loved by his peers and everyone. I get that. But it's like you found his whole family is gone, including him. And then you're just like, no details. I just feel like it was a little too it's like you pre-ejaculated on it, right? we have to lighten it up because this is a heavy case and I don't want to cry. I'm not kidding. God knows I fucking cried my eyes out watching the documentary, and it was hard to watch this. So that's the way that I deal with grief, guys, is humor. But seriously, I think
that's the best way.
That I think they should have waited, because I know you're going to get into the rebuttal on it here in very shortly.
What do you think, Tasha? Do you think they should have waited, or do you think they made the right? Obviously, they didn't make the right call because we know what happened. But if you were sat there and there was no signs of this coming, what call would you have made?
So it's tough because I don't want to get into the conspiracy side of it because that's for the extended, but there is some talk, and it looked like there were some news clips that came out pretty early that said that they were thinking it was a murder-suicide. So there's a lot of talk of them doing it just for the ratings and that kind of thing, because of course, they got phenomenal ratings out of that show. I kind of feel like they definitely took advantage of that situation.
Yeah, I think they did as well. And if anyone knows any of the history that goes with the WWE in particular, and in particular Vince McMahon, the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, he's just stepped down because he's under investigation for all sorts of things. But he is not a nice guy. It's well documented.
I didn't think he was.
No.
He didn't seem nice from what I could tell. Again, I know these names, but I am not very familiar with the Wrestling Association stuff. I don't know much other than a few of the famous names. That's all I know. But he looked like a prick. I was like, he's shady.
He really does.
Yeah,
he has that look.
He's a guy who took what was a one-state independent wrestling promotion and made it a global brand. So for wrestling fans, he is well admired, but it's well documented that to do that, he stepped on every single person that he needed to make that happen. And if wrestling promotions wouldn't sell to him when that process was going on, he would just open up his own wrestling promotion in the town and do it for free and shut them down.
Yeah, it's just money hungry. We can not chalk it up to that, but like being greedy, money hungry.
Yeah,
and plus he looked too tanned. I didn't like that. I saw his I didn't like that. He looked like a leather suitcase. I was like, honey, stop.
Ed Gein would have been so excited.
Facts. Hashtag facts. Oh, God.
In the early hours of Tuesday morning, after WWE had aired their 3-hour extravaganza, the world started to really report what had happened. This caused WWE to do something that still stands to this day. So on their following show, they issued a statement that they were terribly sorry for the loss of Daniel and Nancy. And basically, Chris Benoit would never be mentioned again. And to this day, he has still not been mentioned on WWE programming. There are wrestlers who were his friends who've adopted some of his moves as a tribute to him. But beyond that, he is not uttered. He's not shown. If you need to find anything or watch any of his matches, it's YouTube. You can't get them on the WWE network.
No, they disassociated with him completely. It was almost as if he never existed, ever.
Yeah.
Like it's just like we're talking about him, but he was never in the wrestling world.
Yeah.
As far as they were concerned.
Yeah, and that's never happened with any other wrestler before.
Yeah.
And there are other wrestlers you've killed. There's a wrestler, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, who killed someone. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I don't know that case, so I don't know like the stipulations of like, did he kill someone out of like in the same situation as Chris Benoit, or was it different?
Not quite the same, but he did kill someone. And
so he shouldn't have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's a little unfair.
Yeah, it is a little bit. It's believed from the autopsy results that Nancy was Chris's first victim. They believe that she was killed on Friday the 22nd of June. Reports say that her hands and feet were bound before being strangled to death. Some reports suggest that Chris may have used one of his signature maneuvers, the crippler crossface, to kill his second wife, but this was later discounted as pure speculation after the autopsy results come in. So what he actually done, or what's believed to have happened, there was a big bruise in the centre of her back. He put his knee on the centre of her back while she was bound, and then just pulled back on her head until she died.
Yeah, he broke her back. I think that's what I was understanding. Is like that's basically what happened.
Yeah. To do that to anyone is unthinkable, but to be able to do that to someone who 3 days earlier you were, or the weekend before, you were at a family barbecue and kissing and joking and laughing and dancing to music, I don't get it.
I mean, you hear a lot about spouses that kill their spouse, right? You know, the husband kills the wife, or a wife kills the husband. And a lot of times it just kind of goes like, okay, well, that happens. They're always the first suspect. But this is still just so different. There's something about it that, I don't know, it's going to bother me, and I don't want to start crying. It's very upsetting.
It is, and it gets worse. So Daniel, their 7-year-old son, is believed to have been murdered on Saturday. So he was alive for a full day after his mum had been killed. He was given Xanax before being suffocated in his bed, perhaps as an attempt to gain forgiveness, Chris placed Bibles next to the body of his wife and his son. It was found on Chris's PC that he made 2 internet searches prior to the murders happening. The first was a passage in the Bible talking about resurrecting a son. And the second Google search, and his final Google search, was to ask the fastest way to break a neck.
Yeah, and which is how he killed himself.
Yeah, with that information in hand, he went off to his home gym. He tied a noose from one of the cables of his machine around his neck. He lifted the weights as high as he could, and then on dropping them, it pulled the noose tight and ended his life breaking his neck.
I really wonder if his intention was for that to be as symbolic as I really feel like it was. Like, you know, he invested so much in his entire life. His entire career was like focused entirely around his career.
Yeah.
And that, you know, the representation of like what he had to put himself through to be there is what ultimately did him in. Like, I don't know if he was in any kind of mind to think about it that deeply at that point, or if he just figured it was the best available option or what.
See, I think this is where I struggle, because the first thing that when this first came out, everyone went to roid rage. And that's quite easily discounted, because roid rage is a burst of aggression and adrenaline.
Yeah,
this
not
took
a whole weekend.
This took place over 3 days. This was a controlled, calm environment. He doped his son before he killed him. So there's this thought of meditation. This is it's not a rage issue. This is not where he snapped and he's killed everyone.
Yeah.
This is he's taken the time to tie his wife up before he killed her. It's just insane. I mean,
it was very methodical. It's like everything's planned out just the way that, I mean, like he wanted it to be.
Yeah. And they found alcohol, steroids, and Xanax were found at the scene. It'd be found in toxicology reports that both Daniel and Nancy were drugged prior to their murders. Despite numerous empty beer bottles and a bottle of spirits, absolutely no alcohol was found in any of their systems. All the alcohol was empty, but there was none found in their system, which I'm not saying it's a conspiracy, but we'll talk about that more on Extended Cut.
We'll talk about that.
The WWE distanced themselves completely. They removed him from everything. But something good did come out of this. So the findings of the investigations that follow led WWE to reform its welfare policy, making steroid use much more tightly regulated, because steroids are allowed to be used, but it's now more regulated. So they can't just be jacking themselves constantly with roids. They also done away with headshots with weapons like steel chairs. They're almost outlawed now. So they're only you'll get them occasionally, but they'll be like for a special event. The thing I struggled with most on this is why. And I can't. So everything I've watched and read in the lead up to this episode has said that Chris was a loving husband and father, idolized his son to the point that he almost worshipped the ground he walked on. I've got a son the same age as Daniel was, and I can't understand any motive that would make you do that. I don't condone killing a spouse, but I understand the motivation that could cause you to kill your spouse.
Yeah, because we hear about it all the time, and it's not even in big celebrity cases. It's just they get into a domestic dispute and somebody almost accidentally kills them, or, you know, in instances like that. So it's very common to hear about a husband or wife killing vice versa. That's not even, it's sad to say, but that's not taboo. Like, that fucking happens all the time. But when you involve a child, that's another level. I'm with you, Scott. That's another level, because I have children and one on the way. I can't really fathom that, but I have my ideas of what went wrong with him. But as being someone that's pretty sane for the most part, I can't do that. I can't. Keep laughing. Keep laughing.
We need to get your husband on the show to verify your levels of sanity.
I'll punch him in his face. I ain't worried about him. Whatever.
I feel like that's like the biggest hang up for me is even when it comes to like watching movies and stuff, I like a nice, neatly wrapped ending. I want to know what happened. I want to know why. And I've worked hard to get through that with movies and stuff. But when it comes to real life, like it's so much harder when you can't get the answers. That not that it would make any of this easier, but you know, if he had like left some kind of video saying, you know what, this is why I did it, whatever, at least even if it didn't make sense to everybody else, there would be an answer.
There was 3 main theories of why it happened. The first was roid rage, which I said a little while ago, that it definitely wasn't roid rage. We know it wasn't. The other one is CTE. I'm going to attempt to pronounce this, and I apologize when I get it wrong. It's chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
Encephalopathy.
Yeah, that's it.
Encephalopathy.
Which is caused by basically suffering numerous concussions. This can cause rage, confusion, anger, amongst lots of other symptoms. Chris's brain was examined after death, and it was described as someone with advanced Alzheimer's, numerous concussions, and the brain of an 85-year-old man.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't excuse it. But, you know, you think about it like this. Somebody that has brain damage, right? They're not the same. It's not them anymore. And to lose part of who you are, and depending on what part of the brain that was injured, you might do something and it may not be rational to we're looking at it like, what's wrong with this guy? He's a piece of shit. You know, look what he did to his family. Okay, that's one way to look at it, but not to excuse the behavior. But the fact that he had so many concussions, he even stated he could not count. Like, he didn't even know how many. He had so many when he spoke with the doctor about this condition. He knew he had it. And then the grief of losing his friend because he wasn't being normal, right? So that's leading up to that. That's kind of where I don't sympathize. But at the same time, we don't know what it's like.
And we, surprisingly, I never, before I started working in dispatch, never would have imagined that this was as common as it is. But it'll be the middle of the night and we'll find somebody pulled over on the side of the road. And it turns out they're from Kentucky or North Carolina. Like, I live in Tennessee, and they have dementia. They have no idea where they are, or they're convinced that they know where they are, and they're totally wrong. And, you know, they can't give you contact information for anybody, and you have to try to find their family and be like, hey, you know, your family member is 2 states away. Like, what, you know, who's in charge of them?
Yeah. The thing is, I can't imagine losing my faculties to that point. I think anyone who's quite switched on and alert and do a lot of things in their day-to-day life that they require to be quite aware of what's going on. I think for me, that would be the worst thing in the world, losing the understanding of what I'm doing and where I am. I do that after a couple of beers, but I couldn't be doing that all the time.
To not know, like you have no, it's almost like there's no reasoning for right or wrong. You just, you do something and you just do it. It's like, you know.
There is another theory. And I've said about it, it's a conspiracy theory that Chris was framed and murdered along with his family. That is the sole focus of Extended Cut, especially for the people who've given me the death threats. This Extended Cut's for you this week.
Dedicated to you.
But as I said earlier, I've had so many people reach out to me, not just the crazy people from the wrestling community. I love you, really, because I know you're all listening. But also lots of people who have a genuine interest in this case and had lots to say. So we're going to get into those. But before we do, we're going to lighten things up a bit, and we're going to play Know This Crime.
Oh, man.
I hope so fuck you studied. Get ready to play along at home. Know This Crime! Can you beat the quiz? Okay, so if you've not listened before, Know This Crime is a bit of fun. It's all about the case. It's 13 questions, 10 points per question. You get one wrong and the game is over, but you keep whatever you get. So if you get 5 questions right, you get 50 points. If you get 10 questions right, you get 100 points. All the questions are themed on the case. And Tasha, are you ready to play Know This Crime?
Let's do this, man. I got this.
Okay, here we go. Let's kick it off. Heather, do you want to go first or would you like to go second?
I'm number 1.
Okay.
I'm going to go first. No, it's just that wasn't me. That was the baby. That wasn't me. It was Patricia. Okay. Tasha, are you ready? Because I'm about to give you question number 1.
Let's go.
All right. Okay. Question number 1. What profession did Chris Benoit have?
Professional wrestling.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
10 points. Question number 2. How many children did Chris have from his first marriage?
2.
Correct.
A boy and a girl.
Did.
Look at her. That's like bonus points on that one. She said both. Okay, girl. Anyways.
Megan and David.
Right? Question number 3. How did Chris meet Nancy?
Through the storyline set up by her previous husband, Kevin Sullivan.
Scott, you have to tell me if that's...
Yeah, that's correct. The answer
Okay,
I wrote down
correct.
was they worked together, but yeah.
Yeah. So 10 points for you, girlfriend. Sorry, I'm stupid.
Question number 4. Which I already know you know the answer to because you've just given it to me in the last one. What was Nancy's previous husband called?
Oh, Kevin Sullivan.
It is.
All right, damn. Question number 5. What year did Eddie Guerrero die?
2005.
10 points.
Yeah, you're flying through it. They're going to start getting a little bit harder now. Name one of Chris Benoit's signature wrestling moves.
The flying headbutt.
Yeah, you could have also had the crippler crossface, triple Germans, the sharpshooter as well. Were all options in that.
Man, she's going to make 1,000,000 points on this. Okay, so question number 7. Who did Chris call to say Nancy and Daniel were sick?
Chavo Guerrero.
10 points.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Also called WWE. You could have had that as well. Question number 8. What show did WWE cancel to air their tribute to Chris Benoit?
It was the pay-per-view championship fight, right? The world championship fight.
Game over.
No!
That scared me a little bit. Hey, you know what? She's gotten the furthest, though.
Yeah.
I think you've gotten the...
Did I?
Yeah, you did great. I think so. Yeah.
Yes, 70 points. So it was...
Yeah, girl.
They cancelled Monday Night Raw.
Oh, that's right. Sunday night was the pay-per-view fight.
Hey, it's okay because we're doing the case and I'm having to, research it. I would remember none of that shit. I would have forgotten to. I would have forgot.
I got more than halfway though. I'll accept that.
Yes, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, really, really good. Really good score. Now, as we tell you every single week, this is the You Run podcast and you get to run it. You get to have your say and you get to do whatever you want with the show. I'll ask you questions in polls and stuff in the lead up to the episode. You can call in, you can DM me, you can anything you want, and you will get your voice heard on the show. One of the first things I asked you this week was, should Chris Benoit still be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame despite his crimes? I'll be honest, I was surprised that 67% of you think that he should.
Wow.
What do you think, Tasha? Should he be inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Oh, man, I feel like it's impossible to give like a simple yes or no. I feel like a lot of the decisions he made that led to his brain being in the state that it was were because of wrestling, which is definitely some pretty high level of dedication there. But at the same time, like, it is hard to kind of gloss over what happened. I mean, it'd be one thing if they came out in the news and said an 85-year-old man with Alzheimer's murdered his family. Like, it's going to be looked at very differently. But
yeah.
I gotta say no, I think.
Heather?
It's gonna be a no for me, dog, because given the circumstances of the case, it's like I do realize that some of this was, would I say, not his fault. I mean, he did these wrestling moves, and so for me, it's like you knew what you were doing when you were smashing your head into a metal chair, smashing your head. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I think he knew the consequences of what could happen. I'm not saying he knew anything about the CTE, or is that what it is? CTD?
Yeah.
CTE? Okay, so I know he didn't know about that at first, and they didn't. But you're putting your health at risk, and you're doing all these things. And so I feel like it'd be very controversial to have him put in there.
Yeah.
I mean, and the other guy should be taken out as well, if you want my honest opinion. The one that you said was in there, he shouldn't be in there either. I just feel like there should be stipulations on it to honor in the right way.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a no as well, and I'm gonna quote a very famous wrestling promoter and wrestling manager, Paul Heyman, when he was asked about it, and what he said was, 3 people lost their lives that day, and only one of them had a choice.
That's very true. I mean, it's complicated, but it's true.
Yeah, it is
very
very true.
Complicated. It is very true.
And this is a guy who worked with Chris Benoit for a long time, and he ended his statement with, "Fuck that guy."
Well, I mean, hey, you gonna piss somebody off, but guess what? They're entitled to their opinion, and if he felt that way, that's how he felt.
Exactly that. And anyone who knows what Paul Heyman's like, Paul Heyman does not give a fuck if he upsets everyone.
Yeah,
you and Paul Heyman would get on like a house on fire, Heather.
I don't care about upsetting people's feelings, because I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but the problem with that is that most people think that their opinion is the facts. Like, how dare you not agree with me? But see, that's the whole point, is we have our own fucking opinion. And so if you hate Chris Benoit or you worship him still, okay, that's you. You do you, boo. I don't give a fuck. I don't think what he did was right.
Now, when I put questions out, asking people for their opinions of the case. And, you get the little box on Instagram that you can type in the box. And if people type in that box, you've got the option of then sharing it. So that information then becomes yours to do what you want with.
Yes.
Everyone went down the route of not filling in the box and sending me messages.
What's right? They don't know how to do it?
But no, I think they know how to do it, but they DM'd me instead. So I then, in the DMs, asked the question, do you mind if I say who you are on the show? Every single person said, no, I don't want you to say who I am.
Y'all scared.
You
can say my name. I don't care.
I'm going to read through the ones I got from Instagram and the DMs I got from TikTok. I think then we can comment on them. And I think it will become quite apparent why people didn't want their name shared.
Let's hear this shit. Let me hear this shit.
First one from Instagram. Benoit was a legendary wrestler who should be remembered and recognised for what he'd done in the sport, and not remembered for murders he did not commit.
Okay, bye. Oh, bye. Just wave, Tasha. Bye.
Second one from Instagram is WWE failed here. Their lack of care for wrestlers had led to numerous tragedies that could have been avoided. Benoit was a man who killed his family and himself, and it could have been stopped. WWE officials should face manslaughter charges themselves.
Okay, I will say WWE did seem like they were a bit neglectful when it came to the aftercare stuff. Whenever they actually talked to the family members, it didn't seem like they really gave a shit, just from what I'm understanding. I don't work for them. I don't know. But I feel like the show must go on is their motto. They didn't have time for that. It was like, we got wrestling. We got to do our shit. But I feel like they could have been more sympathetic to the family, regardless of the circumstances of how the family died. Okay. I know something bad happened, but he was with them for years. And you would think they know these families. Offer them some aftercare, some therapy. And from what I'm understanding, they did nothing. It was no condolences. It was just like, okay, we're done. So I guess I a little bit agree with that. Like, not the manslaughter stuff now. That's taking it too far. Whoever you are, that's taking it too far for me, because they technically did not kill him and his family. He still made he did that. So, yeah.
I feel like even though they may not have like injected the drugs into these people's veins themselves and muscles, whatever the method was, I feel like, especially because they were so negligent with their wellness program, like they kind of seem to have this attitude of, we don't give a shit what you do as long as it gets us money.
I think so too. Yeah, I think that's where I was trying to go.
Yeah, if they had been a little more proactive instead of reactive with all this stuff, I can't remember, because I listened to a bunch of podcasts. One of them was actually Chris Jericho's podcast. And so I can't remember if it was that one or another one, but somebody said that Chris Benoit had actually passed their wellness check like just a couple months before this happened.
Yeah,
so,
I think a lot of them did, right?
Yeah. So it's like, really, how concerned were you with people's well-being? And if this had never happened, how much would they have cared? Like they'd probably still be doing what they'd always been doing. So
I agree with that.
I think a good example of how much their wellness program changed is when they changed it after Chris Benoit's death, and they changed their rulings on steroid use, and they tested their wrestlers. 57 wrestlers from their main roster were suspended until they could meet. That's like a third of the roster was suspended when they changed their program.
They knew this going in. They didn't have to test them to know this shit. Have you not? Like, they knew, but again, like Tasha was saying, it's like, oh, you can do a little bit of steroids, just let's see a little bit. Not like, come on. Yeah. It should be 0. Go fucking take the protein shake and work out and shut up. Stop doing shit. And you know what steroids do? They shrink your balls, I think.
Yeah.
They didn't think about that, did they? I hope you ain't trying to model underwear after that, because
we've got a few more now that are starting to be a little bit more to probably my way of thinking. No sympathy for this man. Celebrity status does not and should not give you the right to kill another person.
Yeah, I mean it shouldn't, because at the end of the day, celebrity status or not, they're still a person.
We've got an extra podcaster.
We do. No, I don't even know what he's looking at.
He's pissed off.
People walking on the sidewalk. Hey,
he didn't like that comment. He didn't like no sympathy for Chris Benoit. He was a Benoit fan.
Scott, you pissed off the dog.
Right?
Damn it!
He was so good the whole time too. I should have known I was.
I know, Al. I saw him and then I was like, oh, she has a dog. I don't have any pets in my house anymore. Fuck them cats. They gone. I couldn't handle it.
Moving over to TikTok. TikTok, I'm going to be honest, TikTok have got a really level-headed way of looking at things.
Okay.
The first DM I got from TikTok was, I hope one day the truth about what happened is known. I can't imagine the terror of Nancy and especially Daniel would have felt over that weekend.
Yeah, that makes me that just makes me feel so sad, because it's upsetting that he killed his wife, obviously. It is a million times more upsetting to me that he killed his son. And in the way that he did it, I don't want to think about it. No. I mean, like, he gave him the medicine and I'm going to assume he got knocked out, like passed out. And I feel like that was like his cowardly way of doing it. He couldn't do it while he was awake and hear him possibly, trying to fight for his life. Like, oh my God, I can't.
Yeah.
No.
I feel like that's like it's hard to call it even a saving grace in this whole thing, but that Daniel was hopefully unconscious and completely oblivious to what was happening.
I know.
Yeah.
And I kind of hope that since he was, at least several hours after Nancy, I'm hoping that, he didn't know what happened to her. But again,
I think that's what makes it so horrible, is that you just don't know. It was potentially the following day, later the following day. So was there a period where he could have seen it? Just doesn't even bear thinking about. The last message we got from TikTok is Yeah, quite an angry message. There is a special place in hell reserved for motherfuckers like this. Anyone who takes the life of their child deserves to stay there and burn for all of eternity. He shouldn't even be mentioned in popular culture, media, or your podcast. The man is a fucking disgrace.
Okay, well, this is what we're doing. We're doing a podcast on Chris Benoit because it's part of true crime. So sorry. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. There's tons of it. We're not celebrating him. We are discussing his crimes. But yeah, for killing a child, I'll give you that. You should. There should be a special place in hell, so to speak. I think that's completely. I just can't. Like, I watch a lot of true crime stuff, and the ones I typically skim over, I will skip them, are the ones that involve like the mothers killing the children or any children dying, like Deadly Women. I love the show.
Yeah, that one.
I love it. But as you notice, there's a lot of them that kill their children. So I have to skip through. I'm like, oh, I can't watch this. I don't like that.
Yeah. This has been a very emotional case for me to investigate. When you research any case, you can't help but put yourself in the shoes of the killer to try and understand what and why caused them to behave the way they did. And sometimes I understand the reasons. Sometimes I even sympathize with the reasons of the crimes. In this case, I can't get to grips with how someone could do this to their own child, not in a fit of rage, but in a controlled way. There are so many things that don't add up and don't make sense. There are, for example, there was Wikipedia posts. There's bodies being found by police, the alcohol scattered around, and then the clear tox screens. I'm not saying Chris is innocent, and I'm never going to say that because I don't think he is. He's guilty.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of stuff that is messed up on this case. And we're going to talk through all of that on Extended Cut, which comes out when does that come out? 1st of August. So that comes out on the 1st of August. We're going to go down the rabbit hole looking into Wikipedia leaks, potential other suspects, an alternative series of events. In a break from the norm, we're going to be joined on Extended Cut by Tasha, because I feel that Tasha would be really stitched up if we only done half the case and then said bye.
Yeah.
I'd be so mad. So mad.
Yeah, this one.
You heard how mad my dog was.
That dog said, fuck you, like, for real. That dog trying to get on the You Run podcast. Well, he already on it.
What's your dog's name?
Journey.
Hey, Journey, don't stop believing.
Right? I just adopted him in March. He is an 80-pound Great Dane Weimaraner mix.
Oh, gosh.
The biggest baby in the world.
He looks big. He definitely looks big. I was like, oh, God, that's a huge dog.
Yeah. I've got a little pocket dog. I've got a small dog. He's tiny.
You can punt those, Scott, if they're bad. You can just not her dog.
No, her dog would just catch your foot and rip it off.
Yeah, right.
That's what he wants you to believe.
Heather, I think we've reached a point where I'm going to say, Tasha, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks.
You're going to be back with us in a minute, because not many people know this, but we record Extended Cut right now.
Yeah.
So when the mics go off for this show, we're going to record Extended Cut and then make you wait 15 days for it, because that's just how mean we are. So thank you so much for coming on, Tasha.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me. It was a lot of fun, and I love listening to you guys. So.
No problem at all. And Heather, it's time to do your job.
Okay, well, look, guys, this was an emotionally heavy case for all of us. I think me and Scott, especially just because we have children, this is extremely difficult to deal with. And I tried to keep it light and lovely, but it's kind of fucking hard when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. But we do appreciate everybody that gives us a listen. This was a heavy case, like I mentioned. So go do something to lighten yourself up. And also, stay safe out there. and stay spooky. Bye, guys.
See you later. Thank you for listening to the You Run podcast. Don't forget, you can get involved in the show in so many ways. All you need to do is head over to yourunpodcast.com.
Yeah, you don't want it to sound like you're literally reading from a script.
Shit, sorry Heather. That's right, this is your show. It's fun. It's different. It's like nothing else out there. This is your true crime.
This motherfucker.